You mentioned breathing, and you had told me that you were reading a book on breathing, and so I'm curious what that's about. I mean, what are the big takeaways there?
I mean, I'm not done yet. I am done about 2/3, but the takeaway is that breathing is sort of a lost superpower of humans that we do every day, 25,000 times a day, and we just take it as granted. We think like, breathing is breathing, it doesn't matter. As long as the air goes in and out, there's no difference. But actually through breathing, you can achieve incredible things. You can perform better as an athlete, you can heat yourself up when you're cold, you recover better between burns on a route. I think breathing is the secret superpower that humans have, and most of them, almost nobody knows how to use. So the right breathing technique, I think, can be a total game changer for athletes, for normal people too. Implementing breathing techniques in your training, in your daily life, I think can be very helpful.
Yeah, and so for listeners, the book is called Breath, The New Science of a Lost Art. It's by James Nestor. And I heard an interview with him not too long ago, and he was talking about how important it is when, especially for athletes, to breathe through your nose. And we really have this tendency to want to gulp down as much air as we can through our mouths, but that actually nose breathing is far more efficient. And I found that really fascinating.
Yeah, I think that's the takeaway of the first chapter. Shut your mouth and breathe through your nose.
So hard for me to shut my mouth, though, as an actor and podcast hoster, but I'll try. I'm just constantly talking. Sorry to take us on a slight little tangent here, but when we talked the pressure of failure, I'm curious to understand how that's limited you as a climber in the past and how you've been working through that.
Yeah, I think it has limited me in many ways. That's why probably I did so many quick repeats of rather hard routes, because lots of them were just not at my limit. I tried them once, I knew I could do them fast, I did them quickly, but I mean, the reason for that was also that I just wouldn't accept challenges where I was not sure whether I could be able to do them or not. And that's something that evolved in the last few years, especially in the last, 3-4 years, when I accepted that if you want to reach your limit, and I think that goes for every climber, obviously for high-end climbers and professional climbers too, if you want to reach your limit, you need to accept and need to be willing to put lots of effort into something that might have zero outcome in the end, because you can't get the route or the boulder. And previously to that, I would always see that pretty much as a waste of time, I guess, because I mean, if you invest a year into trying to do this one route and you don't do anything, you might see this 1 year as a waste of time, which obviously it isn't, but you're young and you have lots of expectations, or you feel like you have lots of expectations from other people, from yourself. That's the way you think. And to overcome that, I mean, it took time and it's a process. It's not that, you just say, okay, tomorrow I'll overcome my fear of failure. I think it's a process and I'm still working on it, but I've taken the first few steps and I've challenged myself with routes that, on some days I knew I was going to do it, and then 3 days later it felt shit, and suddenly I was not so sure anymore if I'll ever do it. And yeah, I started to realize that climbing is probably 99% of the time failing, only to succeed, this one time when you get up the route. And, sometimes it's 100% failing and you'll never climb the route, but that's also fine, at least you tried.
Yeah, that's a pretty big evolution for you, it seems like. Certainly when I look back at older videos when you were popping off of, a crux move over and over again, you were really, really hard on yourself. And I don't think anybody else was being hard on you. I just think that you wanted it so bad and you were so driven that when it wasn't working out, you could see like all of the emotion coming up. So I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's, Tom Aldo was famously like that as well.
For sure, I think you need to find the right balance between being hard enough on yourself, but not being so hard that you limit yourself. I mean, if you're so hard on yourself that every time you don't succeed, you beat yourself up so much that it creates, negative memories, then at some point you won't end up challenging yourself anymore, because you're just afraid of failing and afraid of feeling like a loser. So Obviously, if you only enter games that you know you'll win, you're not gonna develop as an athlete or a human. So I think there's always a fine line, but in general, I would say athletes tend to be hard on themselves just because they want to improve and they want to become better in what they're doing. So
all right, y'all, just a quick shout out here for today's sponsor, which is PhysiVantage Nutrition. Y'all, I love this stuff so much. I've been a paying customer for years now because their science-backed products are performance enhancing. They work. They help me to train harder, to recover faster, to stay stronger, whether I'm at the gym or on the hangboard or at the crag. I'm telling you guys, try the stuff. You are going to feel the difference. Who else is feeling the difference, you might ask? Well, how about Alex Megos? That's right, he's a PhysiVantage athlete along with 50 others, so you know this stuff is the best of the best. Check it out. You're going to love it. Hit that link below to get 20% off your order using code STRUGGLE at physivantage.com. All right, let's get back to this chat.
Yeah, most of us as climbers probably feel some level of that fear of failure or just that pressure to send. It's kind of on a different level for yourself and other elite climbers. You know, when you show up at the crag, I imagine all eyes are on you. And that pressure just may be a little bit more acute, a little bit more apparent. Plus, it's your career. You've got sponsors. You know, there may be expectations on social media. Who knows? So how do you work through that?
Interestingly, I think there are lots of different ways to work through that pressure, but what seems to work quite well for me is that I tell myself it really doesn't matter at all. Interestingly, I always tend to put too much pressure on myself, so trying to minimize the pressure, I'm literally telling myself it really doesn't matter. You know, if you climb it today, it doesn't matter, you know, the world's not going to change, you're not going to change, you're still the same person, the world's still going to spin tomorrow, you know. The sun will go up and down, nothing will change, you know? That helps me a lot. So whenever I have big routes ahead of me or hard routes that I'm trying, I try to tell myself it doesn't matter at all whether I get up or not, you know?
Yeah, hell yeah to that, man. I think that's great. I agree. I think the voice in our head is always far more magnified. We think everybody's looking at us. We think everybody's judging us, and they don't care. They're just there to climb their own projects. You know, they're there. Oftentimes, the climbing community is just incredibly supportive. So it's us who are our own toughest critic.
Interestingly, also Chris Sharma has a very good attitude to that. He very often manages to see you know, the path towards climbing something, you know, the process as the main goal and not the end goal. So yeah, that's always good to learn from him.
Yeah, we all just need to go, you know, spend a couple of years in India, and we'll all be putting up 9As. Well, thanks for sharing a lot of that, the mental aspect of it. Last question on this subject here before we shift gears is, if you have a formal like meditation or mindfulness practice that you do, a daily practice or something that you do before climbing?
I mean, one of my daily practices is yoga. I really feel like it does help. It helps to calm me down. I try to be in the moment. I try to focus on my breathing. I think breathing is very important, whether you exercise or whether you rest. It does help the body to, you know, perform better, to recover better. So that's what I'm putting my focus on. And I mean, that's my mindfulness practice. I mean, obviously, it would sound a lot cooler if I would say, oh, I'm getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and meditating for 2 hours, then I do 2 hours of yoga. Well, that's not the case. I think you can incorporate mindfulness practices into a lot of daily habits that you're doing, but it doesn't require sitting down to meditate for an hour. I think just keeping that in mind is already a good tip and useful for lots of people.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that. We can be present. If we can be truly present in the moment, whether we're chopping vegetables or exercising, that can be a meditation if you're truly present and you're not letting the mind just ruminate and wander and spiral.